We have a campaign to try and raise awareness about the conservation of this of the 60s part of UMIST. There are two parts to UMIST. One is the old red brick building on that side, with the Victorian building which has an observatory on the top and a sports hall, believe it or not. This is the 60s reversioning of UMIST campus. Very much in line with an attempt to reinvent a lot of British universities along the kind of precinct or plaza principle. Also think about Lancaster, perhaps, is a very similar university campus. What you would have had in this area originally was a lot of dilapidated workshops, very old mills, very, part of the industrial heartland of Manchester. Environmentally not a very nice place. And the idea here was to functionally integrate open space with university buildings right out to the Mancunian Way. You might have noticed, almost like a parkland, it rolls out to the Mancunian Way. Unfortunately, a lot of it's been fenced off today, and that wasn't the intended purpose. The intended purpose was to create a welcoming to the city for the residents, to create a parkland which people could navigate through and within and between these buildings. At one point there was actually a bowling green down here as well, so to try and create a park-like environment. Now the reason why we kind of stop here is there's a relationship between the Mancunian Way and UMIST as part of that modernist revisioning of Manchester's landscape. And what you've got here is an attempt to produce a landscape as opposed to a series of piecemeal buildings. What you've got here is a whole university campus planned out and thought out according to a strategic vision. Now the issue is that this site is slowly being vacated. Manchester University took over this site in 2004, I think. It's really interesting, you see on Manchester University they say 1824. The 1824 bit refers to UMIST, which was a separate bit, it was a separate university. Just for the record, Manchester University didn't exist as an independent institution until 1909. And incidentally, if they're going to play that branding kind of device, then the School of Art, which is part of Manchester Metropolitan University, can be dated back to 1821, so we should start putting 1821 on our badges, just because it's 3 years earlier, so why not? Who's the oldest university? Who's got the most heritage? Now UMIST was related to Manchester Polytechnic in the 60s. What happened was that UMIST kind of hived off its activities, so its vocational qualifications were hived off, became Manchester Polytechnic. Whereas the more rarefied high-level research was retained within UMIST, and then in 2004 the university took it over. That's by and by. The implication is that Manchester University's intention is to vacate this site completely, which will leave a lot of empty buildings, but also threatens to be one of the most cohesive landscapes in Manchester. Threatens to disrupt that landscape entirely. And certainly what we wouldn't want to see is a piecemeal redevelopment of this site. And actually to argue that internationally this site should be recognised for its architectural heritage. So we are getting into the kind of conservation game there. There is an active campaign out there at the moment to raise public awareness about the value of this site and to think about how it might be reused. So, I mean, one thing to think about, this is one of the few places in Manchester where we can sit and have a conversation without being bothered by cars or bicycles. It has got that feel to it. It's got a level of calmness. I certainly wouldn't like to see that disrupted. It's one of the few things Manchester doesn't have. Okay, I've got one little thing to show you before we finish, just as which is bits of it are supposed to be planted in this area, whereas I've yet to find them. I've not seen any trees around here bearing any fruit of any kind, and I'm sure if they did I wouldn't want to eat it either. But it's just a little kind of weird geography to Manchester that we've got a bit of... I have found that Newton's apple tree, bits of it are in the Royal Academy and bits of it are in space as well, because they sent it up in one of the satellites. And So Newton's apple tree seems to find itself into all sorts of spaces. The one reason why I've also bring you here is also to look into this structure, which I don't know whether you've ever thought about this railway viaduct, but it's 2.35 miles long and it's one of the largest brick structures in the world. But we don't think of it in terms of that. We don't think of this as a barrier in the same way we might think of the Mancunian Way. But here we have another piece of infrastructure which has helped define the geography of Manchester. And certainly, if anyone's interested, I'd be interested in a walking tour of this structure, which goes from back to Piccadilly Station all the way into Salford Quays virtually. That's the length of it. It's a huge endeavour. That's all I've got to say on this tour. I need to go to Piccadilly Station next.